Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here with School Transportation News. Glad you made it for another week of the STN podcast. And it's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing. Today, we have two special guests from New Albany Floyd County Schools in Indiana. One of them is a diesel mechanic named Hannah Hunt, and she's also one of our 2022 Garage Star finalists, along with her Assistant Transportation Director, Mitch Corwin. And guys, the August issue is out now. You can read all about our Garage Stars. Head to stnonline.com and click on magazine to see all the latest new content. And also we have the wonderful, the fabulous Miss Taylor Hannon. Welcome, Taylor.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
No problem. So everybody, don't be scared when we announce Taylor with a different name in the next subsequent podcast, because she's literally getting married this weekend, guys. So you got to send her love, congratulate her. Taylor's excited. She's glowing, feeling great. So I feel like this will be like, this is it, Taylor. Your last podcast is Taylor Hannon.
I know. And then it's Taylor Ekbatani. So I'm really going to throw people off with that one. But
that rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so we wanted to dive right in. I know we're coming off STN EXPO, Taylor, and we're still feeling the high from it. There's so much good stuff that came out of it. And I know before the podcast started, we were just diving and talking a little more about a really great session we did called Women in Transportation. And you were sitting in that session, and we had a power-packed panel of ladies that were kind of sharing their story, and they all kind of represent this group called WIT, right? WIT, W-I-T, Women in Transportation. So wanted to kind of give you the mic, Taylor, and share a little bit about this session, because I've been hearing rave reviews from people about it.
Mm-hmm. And, I don't think I can repeat, the energy that was in the room. I can't describe how that feeling was for you, Tony. I'm so sorry. But being a female myself and being a younger female, hearing these women's stories, it was so inspiring to know that they have paved the way for younger females to come into this industry. And hearing some of the things that they went through, it's mind-boggling to think that that is still going on. And even talking with Hannah a little bit later, she was told I didn't know how good of a driver you're going to be because you're a woman, or I'm not going to hire you because you're a woman. And to think that's still going on, it's heartbreaking. It's honestly heartbreaking. So being in that session, listening to these women tell their stories, I don't know. It's eye-opening, and it's inspiring to know that they paved this way. Alex Robinson had us draw little pies, and she kind of talked about, okay, in your pie, what are you, prioritizing? What do you want to prioritize? And so we had two different pies, and they don't always line up. Like what you want to focus on, maybe family, maybe it doesn't line up. Maybe you're giving too much to work. And so that was a really interesting way to start the session for sure. And then I also think coming out of it, people from the audience were kind of talking. And one of the things that came out was that women don't negotiate pay as well as maybe men do. Maybe they're not as confrontational. So they kind of talked about how maybe that could be a branch off session, how to negotiate your pay instead of just taking the job or taking the pay. And so I thought that was a really interesting idea and a way that we could push that session even further.
It really surprises me, Taylor. I know when you mentioned it to me, but it almost brings me back. We had Derek Gate in Minnesota, and he's an African-American transportation director. And he kind of told us his story about what it was like kind of being feeling like an outsider and going through his trials and tribulations. So, women in transportation, this is a very big swath. And maybe a lot of the women in transportation have felt this or have stories about this. But in this day and age, it just absolutely shocks me that they're demeaned or minimalized. And it's just totally unacceptable in this day and age to have that. And STN, as a company too, we have a lot of young female team members, and everybody is fantastic. And everybody, is given the opportunity to kind of shine and everybody's kind of lifted up, right? I feel like when you kind of push people down, that just hurts culture. That just, it projects a very weird feel. And again, these are big challenges that people face in the school transportation industry. And it's kind of just shocking to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even just with gender, generational, being young females coming into the industry, it was all just really hitting everything on the nose and just kind of talking through. And it gave the audience the chance to stand up like, hey, these are my struggles. Like, this is what I'm going through. How can you help me? Or where can I find the resources that I need to continue to be successful in my job? So it was a very open-ended, I feel like, discussion. People felt comfortable sharing their stories. And I think that's what's so amazing about STN Expo, is that these people come together, they share their challenges, and hopefully a solution is brought forward. And I think more times than not, a solution is brought forward.
Yeah, no, and I think these are great opportunities to elevate the conversation, Taylor. And I think that the reaction from the audience was great because we're talking about real issues, real things that happen. And how do we lift each other up as a community, as an industry, and kind of try to quash these types of behaviors, right? And I think those are realistically just powerful moments that you walk away that you didn't maybe expect to get out of a conference and trade show. And here it is. People are walking away with this kind of aha moment or these kind of new realizations that this stuff is really still happening out there. Mm-hmm. The pivot then to our Garage Stars, right? So you have put together this Garage Stars articles, and we got enormous inbound discussion and nomination. And there's a lot of female mechanics that were in there. And obviously our guest coming up too, and that you had mentioned. So interesting that there's some correlation here.
Yeah. Talking to Hannah, you guys will hear from her a little bit later. It's so inspiring hearing her story and how she was brought up and, how she wanted to go into mechanics and a school district turned her down. And she didn't say like, oh, they turned me down because of a woman, but it was kind of like inferred that that's what happened. And so I think as a woman myself, hearing that story, it's heartbreaking. It's so sad to think that we are being told what we can and can't do based on our gender. So definitely, Hannah is a 2022 Garage Star. We have 9 other amazing Garage Stars also in the August issue. This was I want to say record breaking, but I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. We had over 150 nominations this year for the Garage Stars. And going through them, I think every single year it gets harder and harder to pick only 10 to feature in our magazine because these people are doing amazing things and often they're flying under the radar. So Ryan's editors take his pledge in the August issue is to feature more of these amazing people. But I think the Garage Stars is a great start. I mean, their stories, they're amazing. They're truly amazing, Tony.
Yeah, recognition is very powerful, Taylor. And I think when you raise people up, recognize them, and there's so many unsung heroes in the school transportation industry, right? We do it together as a team. It was so interesting. I was looking at a marketing campaign. It was like a Budweiser campaign. And they did this conference in Bev, which owns them. And their whole theme was the main ingredient is you. That was their theme. And I thought, that is really powerful, right? The main ingredient is you. And that really kind of speaks true to the yellow school bus industry. It's the people, it's the passion, it's the love for the industry, and being able to give all 150 maintenance professionals. I hear it in your voice. You're like, how do we recognize all of these people for these great accomplishments that they have? And I think we share that list of nominees and we get that out there and provide that. So guys, make sure and go to STN website, check for stories, check for that nominee list. We'll be sure and share that with you and get that out there. But those are really enjoyable things to do, Taylor, and they get me excited. And there's so much great content in the August issue to read all about these people and find out their story, right? Just share those passions, share the stories of the people in the community.
Yeah, and I think a technician's work is extremely important. I was talking to Bobby Williams at Sci-Fair ISD at STN Expo, and he was like, you need to do a story on the technician shortage. He's like, we are losing technicians people are retiring and they're not coming into this industry. And it's like, how do you advertise for the younger generation to come to the school bus? And he's talking to me with this passion in him. And it's like, we need that passion. We need to get people excited to be in the school transportation industry. And so, he's saying like, oh, I'm retiring years to come, right? But he's like, how do I stay in the industry, and how do we change the technician perception of school busing, the school bus technician perception? Geez, that was a mouthful. But it was a really great conversation, just being able to sit and talk with him about how important school bus mechanics really are.
Yeah, one of the exciting things that is being discussed, obviously, especially it was front and center at STN EXPO, was this alternative energy movement, right? Electrification being part of that conversation. There's propane, there's CNG, there's all these other alternative energy forms. And maybe, again, mechanics tend to be coming up through the trades, right? These are trade guys. Mechanics have worked on engines and oil and grease. And, your envisionment of a mechanic back in the day, 20 years ago, fast forward, they're using computers, diagnostics, AI. They're much more sophisticated, and they'd had to learn. So sometimes it's hard to teach the old dogs new tricks. So, there's always this kind of tidal shift in some of these vocational professions. And we might see that again in this kind of mechanic, technician, inspector kind of channel. And as Bobby Williams, who's the fleet director at Cypress Fairbanks in near Houston, said, he is hungry to try to kind of fill the pipeline with these new types of people. And that is a big challenge. I was over at the NSTA meeting in New York last week, and it was up in Niagara Falls. And I got a chance to sit down, just randomly going to the airport, heading out, a guy named Bill Griffiths. And he's the senior VP of fleet maintenance and facilities at Beacon Mobility, who we had their CEO, Judith Crawford, on. And they're the fourth largest contractor in the United States, over 7,000 vehicles plus. And, he again was talking like, Tony, no one is talking about the mechanic shortage. It is real. It is a big challenge. And then, I think the next wave of things that he's talking about is how to become more efficient. How do we use technology to have the amount of technicians that we do have do more work or cover more vehicles. And I think he was throwing out almost like a 30-to-1, like 30 vehicles to one mechanic. Wow. Was his kind of like ratio that he said was good. And I don't live in the operational side to say like that. It seemed pretty amazing to me that one maintenance technician could take care of 30 vehicles. But if you really think
that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, the numbers are like, wow, that is a big lift. So there's a lot of change happening in this maintenance arena, as well as parts, right? You have all this part shortage, all these other kind of supply chain challenges. So to me, people are going to be maintaining their older buses longer because they frankly can't get new buses because the OEMs frankly can't produce them fast enough because of all the shortage of parts. So there's even more need for mechanics because they're going to be maintaining, or the life of the vehicle is going to be longer. We kind of saw that with COVID a little bit, right? That they didn't buy new vehicles, they held off, but the vehicles weren't necessarily being used, they were being parked. But also parts fail when buses are parked and not being used. So you have parts breaking, things breaking that you didn't expect. So there's all these kind of unintended consequences that have happened kind of as a halo effect of all these kind of environmental things that are happening. So it's so interesting that Bobby brought that up to you because I'm hearing it at other conferences as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we should write about. I'm going on a little hiatus, but I will be back in 2 weeks and I will be diving into this. So I think it's very important and it's very interesting.
Yeah, you're allowed to have your honeymoon. Don't worry about that. You're good. We're thumbs up on that. But, guys, I also, just to kind of pivot a little bit, I talked about the NSTA meeting, which is the National School Transportation Association. Special thanks to Executive Director Kurt Mackison and President Karina Noble at Durham School Services. That organization basically represents the private school bus contractors and advocates for them on Capitol Hill. And, they do a lot of advocacy for the entire school bus industry, and they're a fabulous organization. STN's a big supporter of them, and we were there giving away awards. I got to honor Alex Cook, who was STN's Innovator of the Year, and formally hand him his award at that event. And he was, very gracious, and he's an all-around just cool guy. I got to spend some more time with them, talk with them. And, we also did a joint award with NSTA to recognize the Contractor of the Year. And that winner was Dean Transportation up in Michigan. They're a family-run company. Kelly Dean has run it for years, and his son Patrick Dean, the next generation coming up, running the business. I feel it because I'm coming from a family business here at STN, and big congrats to them. And Patrick's an awesome guy. He's got 3 young kids. Do it all dad, and it's just really awesome to see that kind of passion for the industry and the next generation, and where we're headed as an industry is so exciting. They did an electric vehicle fair, kind of a street fair, where they displayed the new vehicles. People got to touch and feel them and talk about them. It was really cool to see everybody engaging and meeting. And it's a little different because there's not really a trade show per se. It's just more meeting and catching up and sessions. And it just comes back full circle that we're a big community and everybody's dealing with very similar challenges. We're all facing it. A lot of discussion around EV, a lot of discussion around technology, where we're headed, funding, where that's going, the different programs. I know STN touched on it in our August issue about stuff in the Build Back Better law with respect to tapping into technology. I know there was a discussion about some security funds that were going to be released, going to be administrated by the DOJ, that you guys might be able to tap into for training, maybe for school bus driver training with security. I think that's kind of a result too of Uvalde. This has kind of been a top of mind discussion for people. So a lot of things happening. So always good to get an executive kind of update from Capitol Hill from Becky Weber from Prime Policy, who's their kind of lobbyist there. And she kind of breaks down everything. So super interesting stuff, guys. Lots to take in. Go to stnonline.com, read all about it. We have a gallery of images from NSTA up there. Ms. Taylor Hannon kind of put that up, wrote a little synopsis of things. So lots happening. Before we pivot over to Taylor's interview, I want to remind you the Transporting Students with Disabilities Conference super early bird deadline is coming up. You can save $150 on your main conference registration. Go to tsdconference.com to find out all the details. I know Mr. Ryan Gray is working to get up an agenda. People are reaching out. Hey, what's the schedule going to be like? Little patience, guys. We're going to get there. Don't worry. We'll have it up soon. We're just coming off Reno, so everybody's kind of digesting it. We do have the brand new STN EXPO websites up for 2023 as well. So Indianapolis is June 2nd through the 6th, 2023. Mark your calendar for that. And STN EXPO in Reno, Nevada will be July 14th through the 19th. 2023. And guys, if you missed our friends at TransFinder at all this summer, they've been at every trade show imaginable. It's the Summer Blitz, and they are the experts in routing, and they have an award-winning solution that they want to tell you about. It's called the Trifecta. Their product Plus, it's been around for more than 2 years, has proprietary artificial intelligence optimization baked into it with tools like Form Finder, Chat Finder. You can manage your entire transportation operations using that Trifecta solution, which is Route Finder Plus, the browser-based solution, Wayfinder, TransFinder's innovative driver app, and Stop Finder, the industry-leading parent app. Guys, if you missed them at the trade show, don't worry. They still love to chat with you about that Trifecta and Plus. Email them at getplus@transfinder.com or call them at 800-373-3609. All right, Taylor, take it away.
Hey guys, I'm back here with two amazing guests on the School Transportation Nation podcast. We have Hannah Hunt, a diesel mechanic at New Albany Floyd County Schools in Indiana, as well as Mitch Corwin. He's the Assistant Director of Transportation for the district. So, hey guys, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So for those who haven't read the August issue yet, which has basically just hit the press, so you guys should all go read that. But Hannah is a 2022 Garage Star. So it's very special to have her on this podcast with us as we kind of get to talk through, being a Garage Star as well as being a woman in a, historically male-dominated industry. So I'm very excited to talk through this. So Hannah, why don't you kind of start by, telling everyone a little bit about yourself? How did you get into Pupil Transportation?
Well, I got into Pupil Transportation I first started out driving a school bus, and that led to going to school to get certified as a mechanic. I had grown up on a farm, so I've been on a farm my whole life, and I knew kind of just not the correct way, the certified way to do things. So I kind of just went to school to kind of just get certified. And that way I had a better shot of getting hired on somewhere as a mechanic, being certified. The district that I drove a school bus for, I drove for them for 4 years, and I had planned on working in the garage there, and things didn't work out. And then this job at New Albany opened up, and so I took that.
Okay. And I know things you like to do in your free time. You enjoy horseback riding and that kind of stuff. So definitely kind of feeds into what you were saying.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things that we talked about in the August issue, was how you faced a barrier when applying for heavy truck and bus positions, due to being a woman. Can you kind of expand upon that?
Yeah, I had applied to the previous district that I worked for. And I had to jump through every hoop that they had. And in the end, they told me that my 2-year degree did not count as a 2-year degree because I got done in 18 months because my credits from another school had transferred for my gen ed, so I didn't have to go the whole 2 years. And I did everything that they asked, and they couldn't come up with anything. And I heard from somebody higher up that it was because I was a girl. They didn't want a girl in the shop. So it kind of broke my heart a little bit and kind of felt a little bit defeated. And then, like I said, this job opened up 2 days after that, and I got hired on here, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, Mitch, do you want to jump in a little bit on that? What's kind of your perspective or side of the story, when Hannah kind of approached you with this?
Yeah, I was fairly new in this district. I've been here almost 5 years now, but at the time that we were searching for a technician, I'd been here for about 5 months, and we were replacing retiring staff members in the garage. So we had advertised and had looked around, and we had posted the open positions, and we're interviewing potential people when Hannah applied. And I met her initially, and we spoke about her background, her tech school, went ahead and scheduled an official interview. And honestly, from my perspective, the idea of gender never really factored into the possibility of her working here. I look at a person's resume virtues, their personal interests, their background, ask them if they can be a part of a team. Can they work together? Talk about their work ethic. Are they flexible when asked to take on various roles and tasks? Can they problem solve? Do they have potential to grow as we improve, or can they grow and improve as we invest and train them in transportation? And Hannah, exceeded all of our prerequisites, checked all the boxes off. So as we looked at that and we did the actual interview, that it led to a job offer. So for me personally, the idea of a qualified, hardworking lady, it was a perfect match for us. For me, my background, I grew up in a home where gender roles weren't clearly defined, or there weren't those limits. I had always had that worldview that women and men should have the same opportunities. My mother has always been strong and successful. And, I think that probably formed my view of gender equity at a young age. So, and then also as a parent of now an adult daughter, my wife and I always encouraged our daughter to pursue whatever career path she desired and not to limit herself. So, having said all that, with Hannah's qualifications and my philosophy or my idea about what we were looking for, Hannah was a perfect fit for our team.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it should be based off of, right? It shouldn't be gender. And so I think that's a really good point that you made about just looking at her qualifications and being like, yes, Hannah is qualified.
Right, exactly.
I know she's ASE certified in school bus brakes, as well as factory trained by IC Bus and Roush. So definitely breaking gender barriers for sure. Why is that kind of important, Hannah? Why is that important to you?
It's important to me just because I can do pretty much anything that a guy can do, job-wise. I mean, I drove a dump truck for a couple months for a summer job one year, and my boss told me at the end, he was like, "You're one of my favorite drivers." He goes, "But I wasn't so sure about hiring a girl whenever you applied." And I was like, "Well, thanks." But every job I've ever had has always been non-traditional, pretty much. Even like roping and rodeos and all that stuff. I always do the boys' sports, roping, and I've always had to prove myself. And once I do, it works out great. But you always have to prove yourself before anybody will take you seriously. So I think it's important to break down the barriers so that people have a little bit easier time, because guys do give girls a hard time going into those fields.
Mm-hmm. And I think we need to remove sayings like, "Oh, I wasn't sure about hiring a girl." We shouldn't have to face that. As women, we shouldn't have to deal with that going into the workforce.
Yes.
And I know that you've spoken about breaking down gender barriers. So what kind of feedback are you hearing from other women?
I'm getting good feedback. They, I guess, look up to me as someone which still baffles me, but they look up to me as someone that is breaking the barriers, and they're like, "Well, if Hannah can do it, I can do it." And even like my friend's daughter the other day, she said something about one of the boys in her class said that she couldn't do that because she was a girl, and she was like, "Well, Hannah can do it, so I can do it." So it makes me feel good, especially watching my friends' kids want to do non-traditional things like change a tire or something because they see me do it. And she's mentioned that a couple times, and it does make me feel really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mitch, do you want to jump in a little bit from a management side of things? Why is having women in the shop or encouraging maybe women to take on more, quote unquote, male dominated positions important?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that we should fill positions based on qualifications, work ethic, and potential. So as I see it, if women view the highly technical and challenging field of working on the modern school bus as interesting, then they should absolutely pursue it. There's nothing about the field that limits it to either a man or a woman. I think the opportunity should be there for anyone. And I would love to see the end of, the stereotypes and the barriers that have existed in the industry. And I've seen it, somewhat in my career pretty much the whole way through. And I would love to see, that not be the norm anymore, honestly.
So switching gears a little bit, jumping back over here to Hannah, what is, you think, a common misconception of what you do? And, why is the job more important than maybe some people would think?
I would say a misconception generally would be that the girls need to do the easy stuff, not the heavy lifting, injectors, basically just like changing oil, the fairly easy stuff. But yeah, that's probably the most common misconception. People just think that you can't do the more important stuff or the heavy stuff that guys can do.
If I could jump in there too, I know initially we had some of our staff here would seem like maybe they didn't want to deal with Hannah just as she started, maybe because, for whatever reason. And probably the fact that she, was a lady, maybe with some of that, because it was maybe more of the guys, needing stuff fixed or whatever. But it didn't take long. A few months into it, then those barriers were gone. She was a go-to for us. And, as our drivers or other staff people were looking for help in solving problems and making repairs. So, yeah, we did see some misconceptions there to start with, that maybe she couldn't handle things. Not from our part, we knew she could, but maybe as people were coming in needing some help. So, yeah, that changed though almost immediately.
And speaking of more of a general sense too, why is a technician so important right now, a school bus technician?
Technician's important for safety, number one, because you are hauling kids on a school bus to and from school every day. So you want to make sure that a school bus is safe and running correctly so that everybody stays safe.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I view the role of the school bus technician as, I believe it's as important as anything or any other role in public school transportation. So the technicians, they have the responsibility of repairing and evaluating our buses and then determining whether they're safe to transport students. And that is an amazing, just extraordinary responsibility that they have. So in the grand scheme of things, what could be more important than that? And, as I look at the modern school bus, most of them are equipped with 4 to 6 different highly technical computer systems that communicate on and share information on a high-speed network. I mean, the technicians are working with that. So you have to be highly technical. Not to mention highly technical student tracking systems, camera systems, radio communication, GPS, and all that. So couple all that with the traditional preventive maintenance schedules, and then we have the student occupied area that we have to maintain and repair. So their job is just remarkably challenging. So I think all that, and then couple it with every transportation department depending on them to drive student routes at a moment's notice. I mean, I think that group of people just, nationwide are awesome. And I sure appreciate the job they do, not only in our district, but also, throughout all school corporation and districts across our country.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, which is why we profiled 10 amazing garage stars in our August issue. So if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely go read about them. They are truly some outstanding people that have overcome the challenges of COVID-19 for the past 2 years. So definitely check that out. Are you guys, Mitch, in a technician shortage right now?
Fortunately, we are not short technicians currently. Traditionally, we'd had 3 technicians for our fleet, and late last year, we were able to hire a 4th. So currently, we're in great shape, and I'm very thankful for that.
Perfect. Yeah. And what is kind of just sum it all up? What's your district kind of background? How many school buses, students transported?
Yeah, we're right around our fleet's right around 150 buses. We transport roughly probably between 7,000 and 8,000 students in a day. So yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily a super large district, but yeah, we've got a lot to keep track of. So it is a challenge, and yeah, we do count and depend heavily on all of our staff to make it through a day.
Yeah. Awesome. So even though you guys aren't short, what have you kind of done in the past, or how do you advertising to get to this current position where you have the perfect 4 mechanics?
In hiring technicians in the past, we've advertised on our district's job posting page. We've used social media and other internet job posting sites. But I think personally what's worked better for us and what I've seen just industry-wide, it's better for school corporations and bus garages, is forming relationships with the local high school career centers and the community and technical colleges. I think that's the best avenue to locate potential staff. So I teach as an adjunct instructor in the evenings at our local community college here just outside of Louisville. And we're always looking for opportunities to have these guys and gals that are in these programs job shadow or begin working part-time in a position somewhere. And I think bus garages would benefit greatly from tapping into that resource and building those connections and hiring in young people, training, investing in them. I like the idea. We've not done it yet, but I love the idea of apprenticeship programs. That was a very popular thing in eras past. And we're looking at that, and I'm very interested in maybe having a program there. So I think, as we look at the shortage of employees, technicians in particular, I think we've got to get creative and pursue other avenues. And I think, we've been able to do that to get some of our technicians that we've got now. And I think it's a good avenue versus just advertising and going the traditional route.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I went to technical school at Elizabethtown Community and Technical College. And the whole reason I found out about this job is because I guess they sent an email. The school sent an email about this job that New Albany had sent them. So that was one way that they advertised also.
Yeah. We had reached out to the technical college looking for candidates. So I think that's a great avenue. At that time, I wasn't teaching and helping, but now that I'm working with young people to pair and to kind of build that relationship, I mean, I think everybody wins. The districts win. These young people that are starting their career, they win. So I think it's a great partnership that people should pursue.
Mm-hmm. I think this is super important, and I would 100% agree. I was actually having some conversations at STN EXPO Reno about the technician shortage and what districts can do. So I do see an article in the future, and I'll have to reach out to you, Mitch, and get a little bit more information on what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both for jumping on the podcast. Hannah, as a Garage Star finalist, you are entitled to free conference registration at either STN EXPO Indy or Reno next year. I know Indy is closer, so hopefully you'll be able to come out. We can all meet you in person and see you. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congrats again, and thank you both for all that you do.
All right. Thank you guys for having us on.
Thank you.
Hey guys, another great podcast. Special thanks to Miss Taylor Hannon, and congratulations, newlywed. So excited for you guys. All right. Also, Mitch, thank you for jumping on. Really appreciate that. Also, special thanks to Hannah Hunt. Really amazing, passionate stories. Guys, let's elevate all the ladies in our industry. Super important that we do that. Everything couldn't be done without our sponsor, TransFinder. We really appreciate them. Thank you so much for being the sponsor of the STN podcast. Again, guys, tsdconference.com. Take advantage of that super early bird registration. Lock that in. Save $150. Deadline is August 12th, so don't wait. Go now. Sign up. You will see so many great products. Get so much great education. If you care about special needs transportation, it's a must attend. stnonline.com for everything happening in the school bus industry. Make sure and check out that August issue. Brand new. It's out. All the great stories. Remember, you can find this podcast on STN Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Spread the good word about the school transportation nation. Get it out on social media. Really appreciate you guys. We love you, nation. We'll see you next week.